What's up everyone, and welcome to part 9 in the video series about how to get good at using Procreate. In this video, we're going to be talking about actions and options. Let's check it out.
Alright, so let's check out the actions menu. So we tap on the wrench icon right here, and here we can see actions. Now we have these sub-menus over here, which are different options and actions that are available in Procreate. So let's check out the first sub-menu called image. And the first one is insert a file. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to browse your Dropbox account or iCloud account and insert files like brushes, color palettes, Procreate files and stuff like that. And the difference between inserting a file and inserting a photo is basically you're inserting a photo from your photos library. So you can't select Procreate files and stuff like that. It's just going to be restricted to photos. Now you can also take a picture, and that's pretty self-explanatory. You take the picture, you use the photo, or you retake the photo. So if you use it, you see the image is now displayed as a separate layer. We could toggle it on and off, change the blending modes, delete it, duplicate it, do whatever we want with it. Now, of course, no actions menu would be complete without cut, copy, and paste. And the one that's worth mentioning is copy canvas. And what that's going to do is it's going to copy the canvas with all of the layers flattened. Now, let's talk about the canvas subsection. The first action there is the perspective guide. Now, this is a toggle option, so you toggle it on. And basically what this does is it's going to allow the canvas to show the perspective guide. So if we tap on edit perspective guide, we can see a new interface appears. So this is the perspective guide interface. And what we can do here is we can create vanishing points on the canvas. So we can, for example, tap right here, and we can see all these lines which are emanating from this perspective point or this vanishing point. And this can be very, very helpful if you're making 3D images. So you can have 1 point, you can have 2 points, and let's demonstrate that. So I'll tap right over here. And now you can see this kind of 3D effect starting to merge from 2 vanishing points. And this is how a lot of images are actually created. You create these vanishing points, and then you kind of build up the depth of the image based on those vanishing points. Now you can of course move the vanishing points afterwards, zoom into it, reposition it, kind of fine tune it to what you really want. Now we can also adjust the look and feel of things, so make the vanishing points much stronger, make them thicker basically, increase or decrease the opacity as well. So we might want a minimal effect, or we might want to go all the way up and have the vanishing points really stand out there. Now we can also add a third point, and that's the maximum number of points that you can have in the vanishing point. And you can place them outside the canvas if you want. You can place them way out there if you want. Now with one vanishing point, you have this little dot. You can see it maybe over here. This little dot right here on the outside of the circle. If you move that, you change the perspective of the vanishing point. So maybe you can align it to like rule of thirds or the golden ratio or something like that. So we can play around with this all day, but I'm just gonna stick to this point right here, and let's see what we can do from here. So now we have the vanishing points and we're in the drawing mode. So we have the brush here, we can start drawing, and let's pick a color that suits us better. So white one like this. And now you can see it's not really sticking to the lines. I mean, we can try to draw on the lines, but I have the freedom to do whatever I want. Now there's an option in Procreate where you can make all of the lines that you draw follow these vanishing points. Now to do that, we tap on layers, we select the layer that we want the lines to follow on. So we tap on perspective assist on that layer, and now all of the lines, all of the brush strokes, everything that we do on this layer is going to follow the vanishing point lines, like so. So we can draw, and it's just going to stick to the vanishing point lines. Now we can, of course, draw on the line, or we can draw between the lines. And there's also a diagonal line that you can also draw. I think there are 2 points between. So we draw like this, and like that. So let's take a look at what we can do with the perspective guide. So let's add another point right over here, and let's see what we can do. So basically we're gonna make this layer stick to the perspective lines. So we turn on the perspective assist, and then we can start laying down some lines and building up something to look three-dimensional. Now, I don't use this feature all that often, so pardon the horrible drawing, but I hope you can see the value that this feature creates. Now, if you need to draw outside of the line boundaries, the vanishing point lines, you can either switch off the perspective assist, or you can draw and then hold, and then you can draw a straight line. But you can't really draw anything else but straight lines while the vanishing points are active, while the perspective assist is active. So, something to bear in mind. Now, the next one up here in the canvas section is flip canvas horizontally. And that's basically just going to flip the entire canvas and all the layers associated with it horizontally or vertically. And now the canvas information is simply going to give you information about this canvas, this artwork. So you can see the video file size, the maximum amount of layers that you can create. You can see how many layers are used, the video quality, the color space, and everything that is associated with this image. But moving on, the share button, well, that's simply going to export your Procreate file to an appropriate format. So we have the Procreate file format, and that's going to retain all of the layer information and everything associated with it. So the blending modes, what layers are active, and so on. Photoshop file is also going to do the same thing, but it can be kind of finicky. Sometimes the layers and effects don't necessarily come out exactly like in Procreate, but I've heard that this has improved, but I'm not really sure. I don't use this feature that much. Now the rest of the options are basically going to flatten out the image and give you a shareable file that you can send to your friends, send to a printing service, share online, or what have you. If you're going to be sharing it on social media, for example, I recommend exporting to JPEG or PNG, because those are generally very small file sizes and they have an okay quality and plenty enough for social media. Anyways, moving on to the next section, we have the video. Now, here we can see the time-lapse replay. If we tap on that, we can see the entire drawing coming to life, every decision that was made, every single stroke that was drawn. And we can see the progress of the video, so it's gonna take approximately this long. If we scrub anywhere on the canvas, just put your finger down and push it to the right, you can scrub forward and backwards in time to see specific moments in the time-lapse replay. This is a very awesome feature which often gets overlooked, and it's so important to be able to see how this image was made. And it's so many programs that don't have this feature, so it's awesome that this is possible. Now you can toggle this off. So what's going to happen then is you're going to erase every video information from this drawing. So you can do that, but be aware that this is going to delete the time-lapse replay and not going to record anything from now on. So the next one up is start live broadcast. And this is basically just streaming. So you can stream your drawings through YouTube or Facebook. It used to be Periscope also. I'm not sure if they'll add more extensions there in the future, but the gist of it is basically you can start a live broadcast and have people watch you and interact with you while you do the drawing. So it's pretty awesome that this is possible directly within the program. Now the last part is export time-lapse video, and basically that's just gonna export this time-lapse replay. So from start to finish, it's gonna make a video file that you can then upload to Instagram or Facebook or whatever medium that you want, or just keep it to yourself. Now moving on to preferences. So Prefs. This is the options that are available here. First one is light interface. If you're drawing out in the sun, it can be helpful to have a light interface. It's going to make reading the text much easier. right hand interface. Well, this basically just takes this section of the interface and moves it to the right. I don't know why it's called right hand interface, because I am right handed, but I use my left hand to control these options. So while I draw, I might increase the brush size while I'm doing it. So I don't know. I think this should rather be called, controls to the right or controls to the left or something like that, because I don't think this should be named after the handedness of a person. Does that make any sense? Anyway, the brush cursor is just gonna display the cursor itself, so you can see the little circle over there, which is gonna illustrate where the edges of the brush are gonna be. Now, I find this to be kind of distracting. This can be helpful if you are recording your screen with the built-in screen recording function. Then you can show the viewers where you are actually drawing at any specific time. I tend to leave this off, but if you need it, it's there. Now, the next one is AirPlay Canvas. And now what that basically does is it's going to stream the information from the canvas, what you're drawing basically, to an Apple TV, a Mac, or even a Windows computer. You can install software on a Windows computer that can receive AirPlay information. So that's kind of cool, because you could actually use your PC as the streaming platform. So you stream the information from the iPad to the PC. Then you let the PC do all the streaming. So you could stream it to Twitch, for example, and have the chat on the right and have donation events pop up. I'll leave a link to some programs that will help you to do this on the PC side. So check those out if you're interested. But moving on, the rapid undo delay basically specifies the time in which it takes to start the undoing sequence. So if I want to undo a lot of things at once, I can tap and then hold, and tap with 3 fingers and hold to redo. It just specifies how long should you wait until this sequence starts. So you can customize that to your liking, basically. So the next one is QuickLine delay. A QuickLine delay is basically the same concept as the other one. It's the time it takes to start making a QuickLine. So when you're drawing a straight line and you hold, it basically specifies how long you should hold. Now, be aware, if you want to make this duration shorter, one thing's going to happen at some point to you. You're going to be drawing something, then you're going to stop, and it's going to snap like this. So you're going to lose all the detail that you just made. And this can be really frustrating if you're far off into the drawing process and suddenly, boop, damn it, I have to do this again. So you can control the duration of the QuickLine, make it longer if you so choose, or make it shorter if you really want to tempt the fate, I guess. Anyway, auto hide interface. This can be kind of useful. It's basically tapping with 4 fingers to hide the interface or reveal the interface. This basically does that automatically. So when you start drawing, the interface will go out of the way so you can focus on the drawing. Then you wait and it pops into view after a specified amount of time. So that can be very useful if you just want to focus on the drawing and nothing else. But the mask visibility, the selection mask visibility, basically I'll talk about that in this video right here, basically refers to the selection tool and the mask visibility. You can see everything that is not selected is either very apparent or you can make it very transparent. And now you don't need to have the Apple Pencil to use Procreate. You can connect third-party styluses with the program. So if you have one of those, you can connect them by using this option right here. Now the pressure curve basically determines how much you have to press down in order for Procreate to register your marks. So if you're having trouble with Procreate not registering your pen strokes, you can change this so that Procreate becomes more respondent or less respondent to your stroke. So if you have a very tight grip on your pencil and you like to draw, by pushing very firmly down, you can adjust it so that it suits your needs. And it's very nice that you can actually do this. I tend to stick with the default pressure curve, it just suits me well, but play around with this if you're having some troubles. But if you're not having any problems, if Procreate works just fine for you, I recommend just keeping this as it is, because it's pretty well balanced. Now the final part in this section right here is the advanced gesture controls. And basically what you can do there is you can configure what happens when you use the Apple Pencil, what happens when you touch the screen, what happens when you use the eyedropper, how long do you have to wait for it, and are you going to use the quick menu and how are you going to activate that? So this is basically the place where you can configure all these things. So these are the settings that I use on a regular basis. So basically, as you can see right over here, is that I use the Apple Pencil for the selected tool. So that means I use it for painting, I use it for smudging, and I use it for erasing. Now you could configure this to have it so that Apple Pencil will only be used for painting, for example. Then you could use, for example, touching with your fingers to activate the smudge tool or erase tool or the selected tool. And that's the beauty of it. You can configure this basically whatever way you want. So that's absolutely fantastic. Now, this is how I use it. I use the Apple Pencil only for the selected tool. And when I touch the screen with my fingers, I only activate gestures. So I will not be doing any painting, any smudging, any erasing. It's only going to be used for gestures. So that kind of eliminates the unwanted, strokes here and there, which may come from palm rejection not working correctly. So this is how I set it up. Now the eyedropper tool basically is the picking up color tool. So when I tap and hold, I pick up this color or this color. I can also tap on this action button right here, and that immediately activates the eyedropper tool. It's just a quicker way of accessing colors. So I can just tap really quickly like so, pick up this one, draw with it, pick up this one, draw with it, pick up this one, draw with it. So it's a very quick way to access the eyedropper without having to tap and hold every time that you need to pick up the color. You just hold this down, tap, and it immediately picks up the color. So that's pretty cool. So that's how you configure these settings. You can choose whichever method works best for you. If you were to enable this section right here, touch, what it would do is whenever you just lightly touch anywhere on the canvas with your fingers, it would pick up that color. It could be beneficial if you're switching colors a lot, but in most cases, you're going to be picking up unwanted colors while you're drawing and accidentally just touching the screen, and it picks up the color. Now, you can configure also the delay that it takes to activate the eyedropper. So when you're touching and holding down, you can configure how long you have to wait until the eyedropper actually appears. And that's done with this slider right over here. Now, let's talk about the quick menu. So I turn it on and I set it to tap on the action button, the little square over there. And that is this button right here. Now, when I tap on this, the quick menu opens and you can see the actions that I've bound to the quick menu. Now, to change any of these, what you do is you tap and hold on any of these buttons. Then you can select what action you want to have. Now, on this button right here, I've selected Perspective Assist. So let's go into the Edit Perspective Guide and add a vanishing point. And now the normal way to activate Perspective Assist is by tapping on the layer and selecting Perspective Assist. Then you go about your day, you draw some straight lines here and there. And if you want to go back and draw without the Perspective Assist, you have to tap on the layer, tap on Perspective Assist, and do this back and forth in the layers panel. And this is very time consuming. So a better way is tapping on the action button, selecting Perspective Assist, draw a straight line, action button, Perspective Assist. So as you can see, this is a much better way to go about using this workflow. Just tap on the quick menu and Perspective Assist. Easy. Now, the next one is QuickLine, and this basically enables QuickLine. So you probably had this problem before. You're drawing a curvy line, then you stop for just a second and suddenly it sticks and becomes straight. So if you tap on the quick menu and select QuickLine, you disable this functionality until you turn it on again. So that can save you a lot of headache. Now, the next one that I chose to have in the quick menu is Select Layer Contents. So let me draw just something like this and tap on Select Layer Contents. And you see, I've selected the layer contents. So now I can draw inside the selection without having to worry about going outside of it. And then I can just tap it again, go outside of it. And yeah, you can just switch back and forth like this, select the layer contents, draw what you want to draw inside the layer contents, and then you can go just back and forth like that. Now, another thing that you could do, you could bind this to Alpha Lock. So that's just a quicker way to accessing Alpha Lock. So that basically works the same way. You turn on Alpha Lock and that only allows you to draw inside of the layer boundaries. If you turn it off, you can draw outside of it. You can go switch back and forth between those at your own will. So it's pretty awesome. Now the help section is pretty self-explanatory. That's where you learn about the program, what's new, go to the community page and see what other people are doing. You can contact customer support and other things like that. But the one that we're gonna focus on is advanced settings, because that's how you configure the program. So when we click on advanced settings, we can see all the settings that we can choose. And let's check out the first one. So basically this whole section right here revolves around permissions. What is Procreate allowed to use? So we can determine the document storage, with what is the default document storage that Procreate has access to. Is Siri allowed to access it? Is the camera allowed to access Procreate? Okay, Siri just started listening. Anyway, so basically that's the permissions. So moving on, we have rotate with pinch zoom, and that basically determines if you're allowed to rotate while you're zooming. So leave that on, because why wouldn't you? Canvas orientation memory. Basically, will Procreate remember what orientation the artwork was in when you last used it? So it will open up in that orientation. Now the next one up is fit canvas inside interface. Now I'm actually thinking about turning this one off and leaving it off. Let me show you what this does. So basically, when you swipe away like this, it's gonna fit the entire artwork inside the boundaries of the iPad instead of the boundaries of the interface. So that's something that I like, so I'm gonna keep it this way. So next one up is the palm level support. Basically that determines how much Procreate is going to attempt to ignore your palm. So if you have it set up like I do, where the Apple Pencil is only used for drawing, then this is obviously not necessary. But if you have some of the other styluses, or you're drawing with your fingers or a dummy pencil, then play around with these settings and see what works for you. Next one after that is time-lapse recording quality. Pretty self-explanatory. If you want to increase the quality of the time-lapse, then you can change that. Change it to 4K if you want. So that's going to make the file size way, way bigger. And if you have a small iPad, then it's going to get filled up pretty quickly. So this one right here is going to specify which codec the time-lapse recording is going to use. So if you need to change that for some reason, you can do that right here. Now, this setting right here, Simplified Undos, is something that I completely forgot about in a previous video. You may recall the video where I talk about the selection tool and the fact that you can't undo your way back into the selection. That's because of this toggle right here. Because this is turned on, you can't do that. It just kind of undoes the entire selection process. If you turn this off, you can undo your way back into the selection. Now the maximum speed distance basically determines the distance that a stroke must travel before the speed is reported at 100%. So if you find that your brushes with speed-based settings are too sudden or too sluggish, try changing the setting and it might help you out. Now the preferred file format and the preferred image format are basically going to determine what file format and image format Procreate is going to prefer when you export your artworks with drag and drop. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I want to thank you all very much for watching this video. Leave a like on this video if it helped you out. Click on this one if you want to check out the next video in this series where I'm going to be talking about advanced brush settings, and click here if you want to see another video from mine. Click here to subscribe. I want to thank you all very much for watching. Have a nice day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.